Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled, May We Be People Who Embody Hope for One Another. Paul J. Waddell wrote, Hope has to be seen to be believed. It has to be made visible. It has to be something we can feel and touch. We are called to be persons who embody hope for one another. We have to be each other's partners in hope. And I've seen examples of this hope all around me in the congregations I serve and in the communities I am a part of, the communities I live within and live within me, I guess. And the people who love and care for this oasis of love that is the gardens here and the buildings here and the chapel here at Durham Road Chapel here in Altrincham, at Sylvan Grove in Altrincham, and all this oasis of love that I am blessed to live in and around. There's such a part of my life now. I've never felt more at home in my life. Unitarianism and Unitarian Universalism, at its core, I believe, is in so many ways about embodying hope for one another. To me, this is what is meant to live this free religious tradition that I am a part of, that I serve. This is not a creed or a statement of belief. We are not and have always been a tradition where no one is compelled to believe in anything that their conscience does not them allow them to. So no, I'm not saying people need to subscribe to what I'm saying. That said, though, I do see hope and embodied hope at the core of our historical tradition, throughout our tradition today, and our tradition in the future. Really, I see it in our present, and I know that it is vital for our future. A hope not merely talked about, but shown through our very human being. That there is a goodness at the heart of everything, what I once heard described as a radical okayness. Now, this is not a denial of what is wrong in life, more the belief that there is a potential goodness at the heart of everything, and it is and this is true religious living to bring this goodness to life through our imperfect human being. To me, this is what it means to embody hope. I have in recent weeks received some beautiful emails from families who have conducted rites of passage services, people not part of the community as such, or very loosely. They have all expressed the same things to me. They have talked about our principles, of our community, and this deep sense of loving welcome and acceptance. When they come here, they say they felt valued. It wasn't just a task. They felt really valued and welcomed and blessed by their time here as they were carried through a passage of life or death. This place here is sacred to so many people. It is holy ground, as it was in the past. And I have seen a couple of beautiful examples of that kind of blessing, of how deeply regarded this place is in recent weeks. There was, of course, the recent response of so many to what happened to the Wind telephone as it was stolen and damaged, and three new ones replaced it. And I've seen it again this week, actually. On Tuesday evening, I wasn't feeling very well, actually. I'd been hit. You can hear it still now, I think, as it's coming out of me. Been hit by pollen reaction, I think. So I was resting. There was a knock on the door. It was a guy called Chris who likes to come and sit and eat here in the chapel gardens every evening. He was knocking on the door to tell me he'd just chased off some flower thieves from the chapel gardens. I had conducted the scattering of ashes in the garden of remembrance that Sunday before. The bereaved family, had left flowers in the remembrance garden of their recently deceased dad. Some of the flowers had been spread where the ashes had been spread along the ground, and others were left in baskets. Well, the baskets had been stolen. I witnessed both sides of humanity that evening. At first, it saddened me. I know that the thieves must be that desperate to have to steal flowers like that, but still it saddened me. My heart, though, was lifted by Chris, by his reaction, by his care and love, and the wanting to protect the place, I guess, really. Like a great big giant. He's a huge man, by the way, a bodybuilder, a strong man, I think they call them. And we talked for some time, and I got to know him better than I had before. And despite his troubles, he clearly was someone embodying hope. He had come to love this place. It's like a sanctuary to him. He doesn't worship in the chapel building, but he does, in his own way, come and find peace in the gardens here. I have been touched, I'm deeply touched, really, by how much this place and this wider community is loved by so many people. It embodies both love and hope, and it brings that out in them, actually, uh, as it did with Chris. And so many other people keep telling me this. Their response to my troubles and our troubles in recent weeks just proves that to me. They've embodied that love and hope. I know that we who call this our spiritual home have a deep love, as folk have had for generations, of this ground, these grounds and buildings. And what do we say as a community? I say it all the time. We say, come as you are, exactly as you are, but do not expect to leave in exactly the same condition. Be blessed, bring your blessings and be blessed by your time here. There are no tests to belong here. No one is asked to believe certain things or to live in certain ways. We not only tolerate, but we truly celebrate difference and diversity. There is a faith in the goodness of life here, and I feel our purpose as a free religious community is to embody this, to bring it out through our being, to express it through our flesh. The community, though, is not just the land and the buildings. As was proved during the pandemic, we found other ways to embody hope. We met online and we kept in contact and kept together in other ways. We embodied hope in so many ways. Some people came to join us from time to time through and some still do through our kind of hybrid Zoom services where they're live and people can also engage through Zoom. I do remember a beautiful moment early in the pandemic when the Reverend Peter Godfrey joined us one Sunday on Zoom. Now Peter was a minister at Altrincham and in Urmston in the early 1960s. Send a Child to Huckley, that holiday for underprivileged children that money has been raised for, began in the small schoolroom here at Durham Road Chapel in the I think about 1962. Peter was minister here. He began his ministry at Urmston before he'd become the joint minister at Altrincham and Urmston. And then that Sunday when he was there, an old long-term member from the Urmston community, Alison Jackson, she told him that she had been the very first child that he'd ever christened, that he ever did a child blessing for. Obviously, she doesn't remember that. It's her mother, but it must have when he was a young minister. It was a beautiful moment as he heard those words, connecting past, present, and future. In difficult times, it certainly brought hope to me and to others too. It certainly lifted Peter and all of us to hear this, to see this deepening connection from the past. And Peter was a man, when he was minister here, was profoundly deaf. It's only in the last few years, due to great technology, that they managed to put an implant in and he can hear now. How lovely. He would have not have heard Alison's voice, crying voice, or voice as a child, but now he can. Something lovely in that too. It's amazing, really, but over the years, particularly the last few years, so many folk have embodied hope for me. They have brought respair, a fresh hope, a new hope, when I've needed lifting at times, because we all do. The church I dream of is to be that kind of spiritual community, a place where fresh hope, new hope, respair is embodied, a place for respair, a respair that's blessed into being. May we be people who embody hope for one another. I was reflecting on this community and what it must have meant over the years. You know, there's been a Unitarian community in the town of Altrincham for over 200 years now. It did not begin at this chapel and the gardens here at Sylvan Grove. It began in Shaw's Lane as members from down the road from Hale Chapel instigated the beginning of a new congregation in the neighbouring town of Altrincham. No doubt the passing of the 1813 Trinity Act, which finally legalised the holding of Unitarian views and worship, played a role in the forming of this and other Unitarian congregations. In those years and the decades that followed, it was you could declare yourself Unitarian. It was no longer illegal. Hard to believe that, isn't it? That just over 200 years ago, it was still illegal. The congregations grew and thrived over the 19th century, and eventually it grew so much that they moved to a grander built chapel at Dunham Road in December 1872. And this beautiful chapel, designed by the great Manchester architect Thomas Worthington, people come to see it from all over the world just to look at the building. Actually, it's a classic Worthington design, apparently. But the people came and formed this fellowship of love that we have been sailing in for, that people have been sailing in for generations. Those people did so in hope and with genuine enthusiasm. They brought a fresh hope. They embodied it through their lives as folks have continued to do over the generations, as those who come today do too. Yes, things have changed, including in recent times. Hybrid Zoom worship would have been something from science fiction just a generation ago, if you think about it. Maybe eventually AI will replace me as the minister. I doubt it though. While AI may be able to offer theological correctness and accuracy better than I, they can't offer humanity, the human touch, the connection through embodied humanity, this importance of physicality. The spirit lives to set us free through our human being. AI can't do that. For the wonderful things that it can do, it can't do that. I am very aware that today we stand on the shoulder of giants as we look ahead as a free religious faith, offering hope to a community and world that does at times seem so divisive. May we embody this hope. May we offer respair. I believe that this free religious tradition that I'm a part of has much to offer this our world, as those became before us did. I live with hope in my heart that we can continue to build on those firm roots that those who came before us planted. A solid trunk grew from those roots, and many branches have stretched out from it, leading to buds and leaves and fruits that have flowered and nourished so many. This house of love is a place where hope is born again and again and again and again, despite the cynical times that we live through. Hope is born again and again and again and again. We are connected to both the past and the future. We are linked in a chain of history. It is our task to do the best we can with this, our link in this time and place. We cannot shape the whole world, but we can do something in this, our time and place, in full knowledge that this will influence the whole of history. We can become embodiments of hope. You see, everything matters, you know. Every breath, every feeling, every thought, every deed impacts in some way on the chain of life. Everything, everything matters. Everything matters. Everything matters. There is no neutrality in life. The fellowship of love that I sail in today is a place of nurture where the spirit can grow, but not alone, it seems. The ship is not sailed alone. The ship, this community, this something we sail with others. and with that eternal spirit that is present in all life and yet greater than all life, present in each but greater than all. The Unitarian tradition is as much about community as it is about individual freedom. Sometimes we forget this. And it seems to go against the modern spirituality movements, the grain of modern spirituality. It seems so much about self, actually, and not about more than self. We need something more than self, even more in this our time and place. We come together in love and to grow and to flower in that same spirit of love. May we be people who embody hope for one another. So yes, the chapel and the buildings and the gardens are holy ground. Here the Spirit has spoken and been heard, just as the burning bush spoke to Moses. Here the divine can speak to each as it has for generations and encourage us to keep on moving forward to new freedoms. This, though, is not holy ground because it is especially sacred. No, it is holy ground because we who come consecrate this space, time and space. We consecrate it with our presence and the spirit that grows in and through us that we bring to this place. It's we that make it holy. Our task here is to increase the holiness and then take it out into the world where the worst aspects of humanity keep on desecrating things. We make sacred that what others may desecrate. May we be people who embody hope for one another. As Wendell Berry so beautifully put it, there are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. And I believe it's the task of our free religious faith to nurture the sacredness from which we are formed and to carry that out into our world through our own bodies, our own lives. You see, everything matters, Every breath, every feeling, every thought, every deed impacts in some way on the chain of life. Everything matters. I felt this in my body, in my being, in the marrow of myself so much these last. How much matter matters. We must embody this love through our physical being. This is the spirit come to life. We got to get closer, and a deepening closeness to this community is not just an idea. It has to become embodied. As I have felt more embodied, more a part of this wider community than I have ever done before, than I have anywhere before. I suspect Molly's helped with this these last few months as well. I felt it so deeply in the marrow of my being. May we be people who embody hope for one another. May it bring hope when hope is hard to find. Like absence of love, a life lived without hope quickly becomes empty and meaningless. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about optimism. No, that's not the same as hope. Optimism is about an expectation of something to come, whereas hope is more about allowing something to grow from within us. It is something that must be embodied through us and in us and through us. It is a form of love incarnating in life, something that begins in our own hearts, no matter how broken. Hope is knowing that something beautiful will grow even from what feels like the worst kind of suffering. Hope always overcomes despair as meaning emerges from the suffering. To paraphrase Václav Havel, hope is an orientation of the spirit. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. Or as Eric Fromm observed, hope means to be ready at every moment for that which is not yet born, and yet not become desperate if there is no birth in our lifetime. Those whose hope is weak settle for comfort, or they settle for violence. Those whose hope is strong see and cherish signs of new life and are ready every moment to help the birth of that which is ready to be born. May we be people who embody hope for one another. So what can we do in this our time and place? How do we plant seeds of hope in this our time and place? How do we take care of our link in the chain of life, in the chain of history? How can we ready ourselves to help bring to birth that which is ready to be born? How do we become people who embody hope for one another? Well, I believe it begins with two things. The first is to truly see our world and our shared life as a blessing, as a beautiful gift that we are a part of. This begins by first of all understanding that we too are blessings. We need to let this form and grow in our souls, our hearts, and our minds, and then bring it to life to embody such hope. We need to be filled by this spirit, to be enthused by it, to be enthusiastic. Oh, by the way, that's what enthusiasm means, from entheos, to be filled with the Spirit, to be filled with God. We need to be filled with this Spirit and to set it free and to begin to consecrate our world once again. We need to embody this love, this hope. We need to let hope become an orientation of our spirit and to bless our world with our enthusiasm. May we be people who embody hope for one another. Now, I have a friend, and she might be overstating things a little when she says this, but she calls Dunham Road Unitarian Chapel her Vatican. She doesn't come here that often to the chapel itself, although she does come to the area. She's what you would call a traditional Christian in her own faith. But she's been to some services here and certainly sees this place as a special place. She came the other day just to sit quietly alone in the chapel in the evening on the anniversary of her young brother's death. She'd been with family, but she wanted to be alone, just light a candle and sit quietly in a little spot towards the back of the chapel, where she sits whenever she comes. It's a little sanctuary for her. It's a place of hope. And that hope certainly was born again for her one Christmas Eve, not that long ago. In that little spot, a moment of magic happened. Hope was born again in her being. Beautiful. It means everything to me. May we be people who embody hope for one another. Let's share this hope. Let us bless those we meet with our loving presence. Let's make all ground holy ground. Let's show the world that everything matters. Every breath, every feeling, every thought, every deed, everything, everything matters. May we be people who embody hope for one another. Amen. I'm going to end this devotion with some words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. We bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. Go out into the highways and byways. Give the people something of your new vision. You may possess a small light, but uncover it, let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and the minds of all people. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God. And may this love of life become our prayer. Let's increase our sensitivity to life. May we live more spiritually alive. May we be people who embody hope for one another. And may the love of God go with us all, and may it do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Amen.